Witness history in the making. The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge adventure.
Okay, small boat, huge adventure. We've still got that slow startup. Anyway, we'll hopefully, I'll shut that off now. Boom, boom, that's off. We're a little bit earlier than usual because the time here now in China is at 9 o'clock. To the usual time, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not suffering from jet lag anymore. So I will probably be a bit sleepy by the time we get up to midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, oh, what the hell? We've got the latest positions in it an hour ago, 1200 UTC, and everything seems to be going pretty well, except for some very extreme squalls, which I'm more and local weather systems as well, which I mentioned in last night's update. It goes with the territory around here. It's really quite unique, and it's something that can't be forecast. Anyway, I just Nikki's post. Nikki is Dan's manager. I just put that up. Some of you may not have seen that yet, and if you're on YouTube, you certainly wouldn't have seen it. G'day, John. Decided not to stay up late today. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I've been eating too much food. The Chinese food is unbelievable, and my mother-in-law put on lunch today, and it was awesome. But anyway, we won't go there. It was eel and special bits and pieces. It was really cool. So I'm eating too much, but I'll lose it after 6 months in Fiji. All right, but we're not. I digress. So anyway, and Dan, you may have heard he got hammered. Got a real dandy come through, and we'll talk about that as well. And I'll talk about my experience in something similar that happened to me on Trekker in the 2021 Transat, the first Transat we ever did. I got hooked up and I got 50 knots and bits and pieces, very extreme, 50, 55. But it was a windstorm, local windstorm, which I'll talk about because it sounds, I won't say it's similar to what Dan had, but it'll bring up some of the issues that I experienced in managing and handling the boat in extreme conditions. Exactly what happened. And by the way Nikki describes it, it's a very good post because she's just verbalized exactly what Dan's been telling her. And it's sort of as if it's hot off the press. In other words, Dan has a natural reaction like any sailor, and I've been through that many times when the shit hits the fan. You cope with what's going on, you get the boat sorted, and then when you've sort of finished and there's not much more you can do, all you want to do is tell someone, hey, shit, I just got hammered, So, Jane, I'm hearing all that. All right, Jane's just checking we've got audio. But you might have been getting a big echo. And so obviously he rang Nikki, and Nikki then verbalised the whole thing. So anyway, it's under control, and I have no real concern for Dan or the boat. Touch wood, boom, boom. But nonetheless, an interesting scenario. So we'll go into the tracker information, talk a little bit about weather, and then I'll give you my experience and try and imagine what Dan's going through. The picture at the start of this was Dan and Renaud, because they're both leading the fleet, of course, and Renaud was working a tactical plan to get through that area before these projected potential cells were coming through. They may have been forecast. I haven't seen the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, weather forecast for that area. I don't worry about that. I just look at Windy to tell me what's going on. But as I mentioned, you can't see these things on Windy because they're highly localized and they have a lot of what I call external influences that don't meet the computer model. Okay, because you imagine this, that if, in fact, I shouldn't be talking now because there's less people, but I'll remind people that come in halfway to go back to the beginning. When you've got all these atolls there, which are basically fringing reefs with shallow water in the lagoons, and some of them are quite large. You can see them actually on the yellow brick tracker, that we've got ourselves, and then deep water in between, and you've got currents going through in between those atolls. and you've got varying water temperatures as well, because if you've got water that's 20, or 10, 15 meter, 20 meter deep in the lagoons compared to 2,000 meters outside, you get this hot cold situation, and the whole thing becomes very unpredictable. And there are automatic weather reporting stations on many of the little islands out there. I'm not sure how many, but they will make the most of that. So there is some data going into the computer modelling, but as I say, it's very hard to. There's not a lot of pressure gradient there, in that part of the world, in the tropics, just down south of the equator. The pressure isobars they're wide open. There's very little. If you're watching your barometer in the Pacific, the barometer's hardly ever moving. It's only just little bits of movement, right? You go in the Southern Ocean, it's going up and down like a seesaw. It's going, screaming along, and you can really use it to predict the weather. So, but anyway, there may well have been warnings, because Renaud was tipped off. He was tipped off about it. There may have been warnings put out by the WMO, weather forecasting people, and so on. So it's an interesting topic for discussion. But let's get into the tracker first, and then we'll go through all that. Hopefully that's going to work. Yes, it did. So I'm still I'm back on my computer now. I've got the VPN on my computer. So that's cool. So you've got it there, and I'm going to come back on it here. We've got a funny black border, but that's fine. You can still see it. So put the grids in. This is 15 degrees south, so they are a fair way south of the equator. 15 degrees is pretty solid. That's nearly 900 miles south of the equator, if I remember that right. 10 degrees is 600 miles, so about 900 miles south of the equator now. Is that right? Geez, I might embarrass myself here. Yes, it is. Anyway, and these are the Tuamotus here, right? You can see all the little bits of reefs and stuff. There's Papeete. That's where they're going, in Tahiti. And Renaud's on his way through. He's got through now, the whole lot. And, closing in on Papeete. He's only, while we're talking specifically about Renaud, so at 12 o'clock UTC, 12 o'clock UTC, he's about 100 and something miles away, and he managed 120 mile a day. So in less than 24 hours, he'll be there. So, he's making pretty good progress. And here's Dan the man back there, and, we seem to be talking about it a bit now, but all I'll say for this one, we'll go back to front for a change. This is the topic of discussion. Dan's currently doing 3.7 in the previous 4 hours, but that may have been affected by the fact that he was travelling in completely wrong directions with the squall, with the storm cell or squall, call it what you like, a small storm cell or a large squall. He was going in different directions, so that slowed him up a bit. But he still managed 91 miles in the last 24 hours, so that's still okay. And this is the first thing that I see as an indicator of something that is creating confusion. It's this little blue patch here, and I looked at. There's nothing. What have we got here on the pressure gradient? There's nothing showing at all when I go into it. Right, it's just bland all the way across. It's grey. Okay, so it doesn't tell you anything. Okay, so we come back to the wind, but there's a little hint here on the wind. You've got a nice circular blue patch. Okay, and you've got distortion of the wind around that blue patch. You see here it's going up northwest, here it's going west, here it's going southwest, and here you've got the trades banging into it, right? And as soon as you see that, this is influencing the usual strength of the trades coming in. So you got to be aware that could generate all sorts, not only in the center of it, like thunderstorms and bits and pieces, but also in the lee of it on this side, because you got to remember these things. Cells like this can go up really high, 20, 30,000 feet or higher, and it pushes the air up and down dramatically. And so when Dan's reporting about temperature change, I absolutely fully understand that, because it could have been boring down, like it'll go up 1 minute and then bore down the next minute just as fast, and mixing all these temperatures, and you can see a 10, 15 degree temperature drop in 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes out here. Really quite powerful stuff. So that's the only hint we've got. But anyway, going along, and we'll talk about it a bit more in a minute. 4.5 knots for Kerry. and they're doing 121 nautical mile in the last 24 hours. Peeler's on the hop, doing a 119 mile day. So Kerry's pushed ahead a couple of miles, 3.9 knots in the last 4 hours. That's interesting because who knows what might cause that. I did ask Jane before I came on just to check everyone's social media to see if anyone else is reporting because this is the area that I would expect to see stuff happening. But because of this cell, and that might be, I shouldn't call this a cell, but this anomaly that could be moving, right? I'd have to. Well, let's just see. I'm a real mix up today. I just pushed the yeah, it's gone. So we'll just see what's happening here if I just push this through 4 hours at a time. Yeah, and look at that. Just what I said then. I don't know. Hang on, I'll go back 4 hours. Just when I said, remember the lee of these cells, and what have you got here? It's projecting this little yellow patch directly in the lee because you've got the strength of the trades coming along. There's something happening here. It hasn't given a direction, but because it's pushing out the way it is, it's probably a little low pressure anomaly there. And in the lee of that, you get this wind going up and down, up and down, up and down, and bingo, there's your short-term high wind area. And even though it's only showing yellow, this is projected from the computer model, and that's 28 knots there. But in reality, of course, local areas, you will get 40, 45, 50, and Dan was getting 60. He was confident it was 60 knots, so it's close to a whiteout. And who knows how long it might last. That's a hint that something's happening. 1 hour later, it's gone. See, even this is changing dramatically. I've got a black screen. I'm just going to check back on. I'm sure maybe that's just your black screen, Jane. Is anyone else seeing a black screen? If you can give me a comment, maybe it's just Jane's internet. She's monitoring things here, but she just said we're on a black screen.
It was okay until before.
Yeah. Can you hear too? Okay. If anyone's watching and you're still hearing me, if you can just give me a quick comment and just say, yeah, we can still see the tracker and you're hearing me, because Jane lost it on her phone, but it could be, unless they got us on the VPN. Nope, I don't want to keep talking about this until we get
it. Come back now.
Come back? Okay. No one's commenting. It's now back. Okay, so we did lose it. I'm not sure if you heard any of that stuff, but anyway, good sound. Okay, cool. I'll go back to mine. So I'll carry on. I won't backtrack, but you can see there that blue section just at the top in between Peeler and Kerry has disappeared. So, and I'll go back the other way now. We're coming back towards the current time just to show you what may have been causing that influence for Dan. So there's the light blue patch, and there it is there. So this is in basically in 4 hours. In 4 hours, this is blue patches over Kerry and Peeler. Okay, and as I mentioned before I even saw it, I said you always got to watch out the lee of this stuff. There's the green thing directly above the Tuamotus and directly behind Dan with the yellow patch in it. So even the computer model was sensing something going on there. Anyway, that's enough of that one for now. So we'll just come back to Dan here. 4.1 knots, 118 nautical miles, and doing 4.1. So they're all chuffing along. Eric got underway, and he's 4.5, 50 nautical mile day, probably because he hadn't been out for long. Christian 5.2, 72 mile day, closely followed by Jacob, 26 miles so far, 4.3. We're getting back into the racing again now. It's quite good to see the fleet take off. 8 days worked out pretty right, I reckon. You don't want to be there forever. 8 days was enough. They all had a bit of fun. Jasmine didn't verbalise it, but caught a lot of it. No, she did verbalise it, but she also caught it on photos and videos. Her clips in the water and stuff. I love all that stuff. More so than wandering around in the jungle. But so there's certainly some fun to be had there. So Jasmine's now sailing up to Upu Upu, whatever it's called. I forget now. So we've got 3 more coming down on the track and all reporting okay. No defects on the boats when they left, which is good to see. Christian was leaving with bandages on his legs and wrists and bits and pieces, so I think he's been still patching up his skin infections that he had. But apart from that, it was okay. So I'm going to decrease the size of this before we come back to talk about the weather again and just see what the weather is bringing for the next 2 days. That shows you the course all the way through. I'll go back to John and Popeye in a minute. In fact, I better do it now. Otherwise, we're distracted because we'll get into questions and stuff. So, John, Blinky Bill, here we go. 4.3 for Popeye, 100 nautical mile days, and John's on underneath him, directly underneath, so he'll be having exactly the same thing. John's in a quandary now. You may have seen the post. I shared it. We don't usually share posts for cheapers. I've forgotten the name of it now. Jeepers, this is bad. Oh God, I've gone completely blank. Anyway, John is out, with a decision now on whether he's going to continue after Fiji, because obviously there's a financial situation, and it's always the way. So John is putting a call out for sponsors and stuff. I put that up there, and all these details, you can always find him. But Popeye is definitely out. He's let's say 99% out. He's declared in Panama that he probably will not be continuing from Fiji onwards, and he's actually now sailing in the John Guswell class or the Trekker class because he's not actually racing. He didn't completely satisfy some of the rule stuff, but he'd made that decision comfortably in Panama. He's having a great time, all those sorts of issues. But John has now got to decide once he gets to Fiji, can he continue? So we shared that post, and hopefully he'll get some support and can stay with the team because he'll catch up. Basically, when everyone else gets into Fiji, John will arrive just before probably they're about to leave, maybe quicker, because he is there about. What have we got? Okay, so he's 1,700 miles behind, so it's about 2 weeks. About 2 weeks behind. Yeah, so they will absolutely catch up in Fiji, and then if John wants to take off, he'll be back in with the fleet and keep it going. So let's hope he can do that. All right, so back to the main game back here. I'll just push that up a bit more. Okay, here we go on 2 days worth of weather. You can see Papiete at the bottom of the screen, that little hole there that's happening. We go across, there's the little yellow dot, which is the wind coming out in all angles, southwest down here, northwest up there, westerly here, so it's radiating, but it's been squashed as this thing appears to be moving to the east, travelling uphill. So here we go, within 24 hours, coming up. It's softening off a bit, which could be a good thing. Anyway, we're waiting to hear from Kerry and Peeler whether they've been getting some stuff as it went over them. They may have, but we'll have to wait and see. Generally, there's a good breeze to keep sailing. It's favourable to go through the Tuamotus. It's all on the beam, so that's okay. The guys at the back have got plenty. There's the 12th. That's a couple of days out. So nice trade winds forecast all the way, basically, even for the next few days, all the same. But as I've said before, you never trust this bit between the Tuamotus and Papiete. Weather will become more of an issue as we all move further along. Currents, I'll have a look at the currents here. There's nothing really exciting to report about. It's all pretty bland here now compared to what they had coming from the Galapagos. You can't see anything on pressure. Temperature, you'll see a big gradient here. We should do. Oh, it's still showing hot, but it's cooling down. That's probably not quite right. It is warm, but they're certainly going, as they go south, the temperatures will be getting better. Rain, I wonder if that cell turns up in the rain. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, so let's just follow that. So that by that, it's suggesting maybe that's why Peeler's going so slow. This is interesting. So we'll just push this back up again. So this was the reported. That's pretty much in the center of that area of wind. You can see here where it's going up starting to go up the northwest, dropping along and southwest down here. So that's what went over Dan, and it's come up a bit maybe, and it's there. So I'm sure they're going to, Peter and Kerry, when we get some news, they might start talking about squalls. And Dan's likely to get it very shortly. So we'll just move that forward now every few hours and see what happens to that. Hang on, got to hit that. Just a bit blowing up. That's fine. So it's just disappearing. So Dan might get lucky. I'm going back again to current weather. So this is for 1:30. So this is current right now. That's the forecast over the top of the thing, and at 4:30. So that's in another 2.5 hours or so. It's basically blowing itself apart and disappearing completely. So that's it. Yeah. So, all right. So the indications are sort of partially. I can't go back any further to show you what Dan was getting 6 hours ago, but certainly that's what's happening now. And look forward to hearing from Kerry and Peeler. They might have some stories as well. Okay. So again, no, I'm not worried about the leaderboard. You can see line in a row who's leading and the approximate distances and stuff. And I would think that Dan is going to be in a couple of days. It gets pretty quick. Yeah, within a couple of days. Renaud within a day, and Dan, within a day after that. So he lost a bit of time there, but no problem. Okay, let's come back and have a chat, and I'll explain a few other things. If I go here, if I hit this, I should pop up. Yep, there I am. So, okay, just before we go into the questions and comments, if you haven't seen Nikki's post below this, have a look, and it'll tell you what Dan was going through and what Dan was reporting to Nikki. And I'll just explain what happened, because he mentions in there that the boat, he couldn't control the boat and this, that, and the other, and that's exactly what happens when it gets real extreme, to a degree. First of all, my experience with Tracker, I had a lengthy overnight session on board Tracker, which was what I call traditional open ocean, 35 to 40, maybe gusting a little bit higher. I was under bare poles. The South Atlantic wind vane was steering beautifully because I had the luxury of steering basically dead downwind. I didn't really care, but that happened to be right on course, and I sailed like that for about 18 hours. And basically, it just went below. It just went below. The sea was building. And then we get water through the cockpit, all that sort of stuff, But no concern. Just shut the hatch, go below, get the bunk. And I wouldn't even go up and stand on watch because there was no point. The weather was rubbish. And I had a handheld GPS, which I would just turn on because I got a little plotter, but I was saving power. The questions are distracting me now. That's not the computer; it's the internet quality. Internet tonight is really good, and I'm not sure what you're getting, but we've got to deal with what we have here at the moment. Anyway, and my GPS handheld would give me the speed across the ground, okay, by GPS, and it'd also give me my course, and I know more than the end of Lanzarote. Okay, I was heading across the top of the island, not Lanzarote, in the Canaries. I was heading across the top of the island, and all of a sudden, out of blue sky, 100% blue sky, I got nailed for probably 3 hours of very strong winds. 45, 50, 55, maybe even gusting higher. But they were wind waves. Okay, the wind held generally in one constant direction, and the wind waves prior to that it had been blowing about 25, gusting 30, and all of a sudden it just went bang off the scale. And it was very reminiscent of stuff I've seen in Antarctica, a local wind swell, a wind system, pressure cell, and the waves were just wind waves, completely just driven by the wind. And very quickly, they were up around 3.5 meters. And when you're in a little boat that only weighs, 1.2 ton, and you have some sail up, you get caught in the wrong direction, you just get laid flat. And that's what a yacht does. It's got a keel. So as soon as you get laid flat, you just come around, and then the boat comes up again. Okay, so when it first hit, I immediately filled up the jib. I've got a furling system on the front of the boat because the sail starts flogging and you can blow your sail up. So I got rid of the jib. The main was already partly down into third reef, and I quickly dropped the main And by the time I got the main down, the boat, I'm just sitting there, just laying a hull, and basically be drifting downwind and stalled. Right, I wasn't doing anything. I was drifting downwind maybe 1.5 knots. And I'm telling you this story because it could be possibly something that Dan went through as well. Because when it's really windy, even the storm jib can be too big. The boat's 580 is great. It's got the inner forestay. You can hang a storm jib on, which is really cool. But in extreme conditions, that storm jib, if it's on the beam, it'll just lay you flat again. So anyway, so I'm sitting there thinking, oh, this is interesting. The boat's all shut up. I'm on deck, hanging on by the main after I got it down, this, that, and the other, and it's screaming. And I'm thinking, right, what am I going to do now? Because we're stalled. And I think, what sail do I want to put up? So, oh, okay. And then I start going backwards. You're drifting slightly backwards. So I thought I'll do a 3-point turn, okay, like in reverse, which you can do on a yacht. If you're drifting backwards, you put the tiller on, you go one way, and then you turn it the other way, and you can turn the bow. And because I wanted to go downwind, but it wouldn't quite go. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to put some sail up, okay? Do I want to put the storm jib up? So I thought about it because I didn't have the storm jib there at the time, and I thought I've got to go down and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, no, I don't want to do that. So I thought I'll just pull out a little bit of sail at the very front, on the furling gear, because it's quite heavily reinforced in the clew. So I pulled a little bit of sail out, wasn't doing anything because it was still just laying flat. I was sort of stalled. So I thought, right, I'll get the warps out. So I've got 100 meters line of big nylon line with chain on the end of it that I can use as warps to start off the back, to hopefully create some drag and pull the stern around and get me going. And all this is happening over about 20 minutes because I thought it was a bit embarrassing just to be sitting there laying a hull, even though it was feeling quite normal. And the risk was with laying a hull that these seas were building and they were starting to break. Right, they were breaking, and I thought, geez, little boat in 45, 50 knots in a gusting foot, and you've got a 3-meter sea, 3.5-meter sea. I mean, we've had a GGR in the first Golden Globe race, an OE 32 footer in the Golden Globe race, got rolled in 3.5-meter seas in about 35 knots of wind, and dismasted, right? So you've got to be careful. So I didn't like the idea of just laying a hull, drifting downwind. And I started to get the warps out. So this is bloody stupid, because I'm going to go all the effort to stick it out. So I just poked a little bit more of the head sail out and literally did a bit of a 3-pointer because, it was only enough. So it was dead tight. And then as soon as it's, because the boat's got to start to fall away, and I was drifting backwards still at times, sometimes it stopped. So I managed a 3-point turn and the bow fell down. And as soon as it did, I was cool because then I had some steerage and stuff. Now, and so that whole process of decision making, doing all the bits, probably took 25 minutes or so, and you feel a bit helpless. But I wasn't worried because I've been in similar situations in bigger boats, much bigger boats, and you just get on with the job. And I was always inspired by Robert Knox Johnson and some of the situations he got into, and other people in Southern Ocean and all that sort of stuff. It just does, though, feel very strange when you feel as if you can't do anything. What's going on? I can't. The boat's not going this way. I want to do that. And blah blah. So that was, and I've got a feeling what Dan went through listening to Nikki was exactly the same situation. Overwhelming amount of breeze. Right. I can't put any sail up. Dan didn't have his reefing gears, so he would have had a hank sail on, and who knows how much fun that would have been pulling down in a big puff. So that's probably his exasperation. And then he did exactly what you do, as long as there's sea room. And I believe he was going north, and he wasn't on a lee shore. So he went down below, shut the hatch, and just hang on for the ride for a bit, and think about what's going on. So, but he did say the boat was fine. He wasn't worried about the boat or anything like that. He would have just been frustrated and confused and logically for the sailor going through all this, because you can call someone and have a chat, so that gives you the confidence. Oh, well, what the hell? Because sometimes, and I've been in plenty of situations, sometimes you feel uncertain as if you've done the right thing. Oh, was that the right thing I should have done? Maybe I could have done this, or maybe I could have done that. But there's basically no right and wrong. Every situation is completely different. Because as I said, in one, the wind's building, blah, blah, blah. Just had a beautiful night. Or 17 hours or something, 18 hours. Boring off downwind. I got so much sleep, it was ridiculous. Whereas the windstorm that came was really strong. straight out of the blue sky, all that sort of stuff. And then I was looking for something to change the clouds and stuff. And there's a whole story after that. But as soon as I saw some clouds on the horizon, I thought it'll be over. And sure enough, it died down pretty quickly. I was in that for the heavy part for about 3 hours, but another 3 hours later, so 6 hours later, it was back to sort of like 25 gusting over 30, 35, and everything's sort of sweet, and you just carry on, and the trekker was cool. So that's just to try and give you a feel for what Dan might have gone through. When it's blowing 50, 60 knots, there's not a lot you can do. And if the boat's not set up, or so it's boring off downwind or something, or if you're racing and you want to go this way, but the wind's saying you got to go that way, you don't want to do that in a hurry, so you just stop or whatever. So very interesting stuff. I could really relate from Nicky's post, and also it was an insight into what the managers go through as well. Okay, enough of that. So, yeah, come on, Jane's computer's the old one. Don's not using. Yeah, I'm using mine. In fact, mine, Jane's is actually the newer than this. No, it's a new one.
Mine's an old one.
Yeah, it's an old one, but it was brand new, eh? We didn't use it for a year.
Yeah, it bought in France.
Yeah, it was a French computer that were brand new one we bought for a particular job, and we never used it. And then the Jane's really old one just got too slow. She still uses it for certain things, and so I said I better use that one. So anyway, but yeah, the internet is the problem here if we're not giving you the right signal. But we'll work with what we've got, and I do like China actually. It's
But they
actually
said yesterday was the best image ever.
the best image ever. Oh, that must be the camera. But Jane just bought an external camera. We've got an external camera we might start using. But anyway. Okay, so yeah, I like I don't get into politics, but it's the country and the people and all that stuff. China's great. It's really quite amazing. Okay, John, they decided not to sleep. Yeah, I'm going to get some sleep now. I'm off the jet lag. Yeah, we're all thinking about Dan. It was obviously very stressful, and I'm keen to hear what happened to Kerry and Peeler. They might have got a bit of that. So, there's Jane. Next time, should use the phone internet. Seems the image is not clear. That's Jane
What is
behind me.
that?
Really? Oh, bugger. Okay.
Watch out and can't see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. On the pistol dropping. I don't want you to stop.
Okay, we're committed now. Sorry about that. So if you get onto the tracker, you'll see that little blue hole and the little yellow hole. Sorry about the quality, everybody. It's the internet. Rex image is grainy and sometimes breaking up. Bugger. No, it's not. I'm not on Starlink here. That's not really not a good thing to do in China. Starlink on the boats. It's never been cheap, but it's been incredibly good value. We've got a Starlink on the boat in the Pacific, and we've got our Mini with us now. But it can be expensive when you're at sea in the ocean. I forget some of them are paying about nearly $300 a month to keep it going in deep ocean and so on. But it's all changed again, and I'm not sure what the latest. So I won't go into that yet. But when we get to Fiji, we'll know what the latest is, and when I'm doing the updates from there, I'll let everyone know. But I think in the deep ocean, it's kind of around about $300 a month. But if you get a sort of a roaming one, a coastal roaming, which gives you a certain distance offshore, it's only like €70 a month for unlimited, which is cheaper than some of the land-based ones. So anyway, the other yeah, maybe no, it's actually the bad quality tonight is the internet. Sorry, in fact, the other thing I've got here was windy. I'm going to knock that off because I was going to.
Why?
Okay, it could have been the windy. I've just deleted windy. I had that there. I was going to show you the
That's why.
the windy. Now Jane's complaining. That's why. But I wanted to show you the forecasting on there rather than just on the tracker map because it gives you a little bit different image, and I didn't see anything on there. So anyway, hopefully. So we didn't get to show you the windy. Anyway, never mind. Storing, Colin watching. Yesterday used the phone internet. Oh, James explained that. Can you heave two in the 580? You could, but it'd be, as I say, extreme wind. It's only a little boat, so you might be better off if you've got sea room. The ultimate survival situation is to run off downwind towing warps. If you're going downwind, the transom is facing the sea, so you're going in the right direction. The waves are going to be breaking with you. You're going to take off, and If you've got streaming warps or a drogue, you're not going to try and broach and get in front of the wave, which creates a rollover situation. All this sort of stuff. That's traditional handling stuff. So the 580 is just a small boat, and the tactics for a small boat sometimes are a little bit different than a bigger boat, a heavier displacement and so on. But it's the same. It's a boat. You've got to make the decisions, and there's no hard and fast rules on what's the best thing to do. But rollovers is the big issue because your mast is vulnerable. It's the Selden mast is okay. It's designed for all the correct stresses for that boat, but you can get some unusual stresses in rollovers and big seas. That's why on my tracker, I went for a Sparcraft mast, not an ordinary Sparcraft mast. It's all within class approval, but it's slightly bigger section. It's just slightly bigger section, but a lot more engineering in the section and in all the fittings. It's all link plates and things. It's like an around the world Southern Ocean boat, and I was happy in all the situations I was in, which weren't many on tracker. I didn't sail that far, about only across the Atlantic a bits. I was happy to have that rig, so because your rig is the most vulnerable part. The other thing is, we're talking about it, is if you do drop a rig on a 580, you can pick it up like that. You can pick it up and pull it back on the boat, right? So it's not that heavy. I mean, it's not easy if you've got the whole lot and you're doing it normally. Two people can lift the mast, but one person can just lift it. But if you've got a piece of the mast, so you get this mast and you've got a piece, you can get it back on the boat. The notice of race says you've got to have two little spinnaker poles, and you should be able to disconnect if it's a real problem, disconnect your boom really quickly, and cut your line, so at least you can save the boom, right? So then, because everything's so small and easy, you should be able to set up a jury rig and sail home. And we always stress this a lot, even in the GGR. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we stress it. You've got to trial, practice with your jury rig, all this sort of stuff, so that hopefully when a boat loses its mast, the skipper's in a position where they can set up a jury rig and sail home. Because I digress, but the reality is, if you're in a storm and you get hammered, rolled over, and lose your mast, you have to survive that storm anyway. No one's going to get to you until that storm's over. This is a big psychological point. So as long as the boat is secure and floating, and you've got a little bit of mast left, or you can get something back on, no one's going to get you till the storm's over. And so when the storm's over, you've got a chance to get out there and hopefully build a jury rig and sail home. And that's part of the deal. And for a 580, that would be possible as well. Touch wood. Okay. Can you heave to? Yeah. So, he doesn't see his. No, I can't see my transition. I'm looking at me on the screen here, what you're supposed to be seeing, but I don't see it transmitted on the other side. And I haven't got my phone beside me because Jane's over there looking at it, so Jane can see it. But once we start, we're committed to the internet that we've got, and we've got the house internet, which should be technically better than the phone. But it could have been too, because I had Windy there. Windy, the program on the back of the computer, creates more stuff, and it's sitting in the hot boxes down the bottom. So it's using up a bit of bandwidth, and that might have stuffed us up a bit. Sorry about that. Sounds good. Okay, there was a black screen. Yep, cool. I can see the screen. Good now. It all went black, but it's okay again now. Okay, sound okay. Could you please remove my message from the chat? Sorry, because I don't see it until I get back on my screen here. But anyway, it's down now. Oh, could you please remove my message from the chat? Yeah, I'll delete it after when we get off. I thought you meant it on the thing. Okay, can see the tracker. Screen's all good. Your connection isn't showing the map. It's all cut. That's too much of Don's skill set. He forgot how it shows up and won't know until you get the yes. Tracker's been pickloaded. Yeah, can't tell Don. Stop now. Next time will be better. Okay, sorry for the bad images tonight. I'll do the tracker again in a minute, so anyone that wants to bugger off, you can bugger off, and those that didn't see it, I'll see it. Sorry? It's still because it's not black screen, so just... Okay, we're going to finish it because Jane's saying it's not. We got bad internet. Don, I think you need a new laptop like yesterday. But looking at distances traveled to Renault travel leg, like it's mind-boggling distance. Yep, absolutely. The 5G phone and other computer work much better. No, it's just it's Saturday night here now, and for whatever reason, it fluctuates a lot. And I did have windy up, which could have caused a problem. But windy's not there now. Is the plan to do the tracker around the time? What? Yeah, I would rather do it now than midnight. So you can count on it being around about now. So it's a 12 o'clock UTC timeline. Okay, come on, James, computer. Why am I seeing the same thing again? What wave height is Dan likely to be encountering? Well, the wave height there won't be as you would normally get in the ocean, because they're all, an atoll is like a landmass for the ocean, for the seas. So that it doesn't have a lot of fetch. So they're all wind waves again. They're protected from that. So they'd be in big winds, 3 meters, 3.5 meters, but they can change shape dramatically. And in fact, I didn't show you, but on windy, you could see a lot of disturbance. There was waves coming this, or not waves, yeah, but general wave pattern this way and that way. And it was that sort of optical illusion effect when you look at the screen where the waves are going, very confused in that area. So they can be confused seas, but you don't get like 10 meter, 8 meter seas. It'll be 3.5, 4 meters if it holds on for a long time. But normally it would show at about 2 meters, 2 meters, and then when the wind picks up, it gets to 3.5, maybe 4. But they can be really close together and really steep and start breaking because of the wind. It's all driven by the wind, but that drops off just as quickly when the wind drops back. Once the wind drops back, the sea will die off, and an hour later can be completely different. You think you're somewhere else. I've got a favourite saying: when it's really horrible outside, in the middle of a storm or whatever it is, you've got one saving grace, and all it is it's only wind and water. That's all it is. Don't worry about it. Get over it. Anyway, yeah, I've scratched my head on that a few times. Do they strap in and wear helmets? Well, helmets haven't been compulsory up until Fiji. After Fiji, helmets are compulsory. And so a lot of the boats, probably half the entrants have got helmets. They haven't strapped in. That's another issue. But they could think about that. We've got to have on the GGR, you've got to have big bed bunks. Straps on your bunks are compulsory as well. So that's how that works. How do they measure the wind speed at sea? It comes through intuition. You just get a feeling for it. And boat speed, I've found you can pick boat speed really accurately once you've been looking at it for long enough on the instruments and stuff. And wind speed, if you've been at sea long enough, you get a really good idea. The reason they use Beaufort scales, and you don't see it talked about here, is because it's a range of wind, like about every 10 knots. You've got another name for it. But you just get to understand what it is. You get a feel for it, and so it's a best guess situation. But anyone that's been at sea for a long time, it's reasonably accurate to within 5 to 10 knots, in the mid to top range, and then in the bottom range you can tell pretty easy, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25. You start getting things happening, and then 25, 30. So it's all intuition and experience. Okay, I think we're just about done. I hope you can hear all this. Is there a way to make a local copy of the tracker video and upload it afterwards without all? Yeah, there is, but we're not meant to have the pixels and stuff, and it's a lot easier for us to do the live. And it creates. We have real problems at the moment, and I'll give you an example. This is with Facebook. When we do a generic post of photos and bits and pieces, we'll get 400 to 500 emotions. Okay, because it's being sent to other people all over the place, and they'll come, oh, there it is, boom, 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 boom. As soon as we share a post, someone else's post, you get boom, boom, whatever. It's not as much because it doesn't hit the algorithm. And so when we pre-record something and then put it up, like if we pre-record, Jane just did a video of me fitting a hydrovane on our boat in Fiji. Put that together. We might share it here. It's Tubby, me, and my undies, because I'm called Captain Underpants when I'm on my boat, because it's my usual attire. If we share that from YouTube, we don't get a lot of interaction on Facebook because it's a YouTube one, and YouTube don't necessarily like Facebook and blah blah blah. They put up with it, but it doesn't go anywhere. So to record one and then put it up, it's not there. And if we record it, we don't get to do the question Q&A. Now this is the first time with MGR. It's the first time we've actually done the Q&A thing at the end, because I'm looking at the comments. We've never really worked that heavily with GGR and OGR, but it works really well, and it'll continue on in the future. But so that's why it happens. But yeah, China's a challenge in that one, because we're not supposed to do it here. you're not supposed to have Facebook. You're not supposed to do a lot of things. But we managed in the system, and as I say, we accept that and we work with what we got. So sorry about that, but hopefully it'll be better tomorrow. Did Kerry get his sale issue fixed? There wasn't. You might be referring to he might not have had a sale. It affected his speed, and that wasn't necessarily the case. It was the situation with the servo pendulum wind vane. Kerry thought it was a bit hard to hold the boat running dead downwind, so he was jibing angle. He was working jibe angles as he's going downwind. It wasn't the sail missing per se. That was a miscommunication between his manager and myself. So that's cool. Oh yeah, Jonathan. Yeah, here's the comment from Algorithms. Hit the like button. So if you're watching this, like, subscribe, share, do what you like. Or share the good ones. Do what you like, and pass a comment. Put a like, emotion, or whatever. It all helps us. We're slowly kicking up the numbers. We're 7-7. But I did a test. I did another one the other day on 2 big hit ones, and we're still only running at about we could call an average 20%. So 20% of the people that are putting emotions up have actually liked or followed. And in amongst that, there's 65% have either already liked it or I've invited them. So if I've invited you, you should join, because I go through and invite everyone that's not there. And boom, boom, boom. And now there's a lot of people there that pop up that I've invited, but they still haven't joined. But I don't see invites from me either. Anyway, okay, that's it. So 5, that's cool. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. I'll hit this one here. That's got to go
Adventure.
back. No, that's not going to work there. I'm supposed to do a fancy out clause. Hang on, it might start. Boom, boom. Anyway, I'm out of here. See you later.
The making. The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge adventure.